Well, hello, my friends. We are back again for another episode, and we've got some great topics for you. And more importantly, I've got my buddy Clay here. Say hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Happy week. Good to be back. Good to see Elsa as always.
Absolutely. We are ready to party right after this. Oh, here we are. I gotta smooth out that intro. I gotta get that nice into smooth, like that song just dead stops. And here we are. That's all right. Nobody minds that, right?
I mean, it's obviously we're ready to go, right?
Yeah, we're ready. That's what it is, Clay. We're just ready. We're so excited to talk about the stuff and things that we got to get around to. I like that. I like how you just you smooth that over for me. I'm like, oh, that was graceless. And Clay came in. He's like, here's some grace. I got it.
It's all partners. That's what we do.
Yes. I love it. I love it. So Clay was the man this week. I was a big old slacker. And Clay gave us the topics for this week, which I was really, really relieved because I was a slacker. So I like these. These are good. First up, I love this. Just because I can't wait to show the picture. But first up, we are talking about the U.S. Senate has gotten rid of their dress code. So basically, I'll sum it up. Basically, it's the Walmart of it is now the U.S. Senate is now Walmart.
As long as you work there as an elected official, because everybody else, visitors, if you get called to testify, if you're a staffer, you still have to abide by the dress code. Women, business dress, and men, coat and tie, unless you're an elected official, and there you can wear whatever you want.
Every time I think I can't get more embarrassed by how our government is being run, they do something new. And this is right up there. And now, please correct me if I'm wrong. If I understand right, this has a lot to do with this clown.
It has everything to do with that clown. It's already being called the Fetterman Rule. That's the common vernacular in both in the media and actually in the Senate itself. They're calling it the Fetterman Rule. And being from Pennsylvania, where he is from and who he represents, it hits a little closer to home. And listen, the guy has always dressed like that. They allowed it when he was here in the state of Pennsylvania as a lieutenant governor. And that's who he portrays himself to be, which is one of the more irritating things about all of this. He portrays himself to be this working class guy with tattoos and a hoodie or these really loose Charlie Sheen-esque bowling shirts and, his athletic shorts where he clearly skips leg day at the gym all the time for a big man. But the reality is he's not that guy. He comes from a wealthy family, a very wealthy family, grew up wealthy, did not grow up blue collar working class, has never worked blue collar working class. He just portrays himself to be that way. And, to me and to most people, it just comes off as slovenly. He's lazy. And even when he was campaigning, he said, I will abide by the dress code. I understand that in the Senate, there's a dress code. And if elected, when he beat Dr. Oz, he said, I will abide by the dress code. Shows up to work, goes to the hospital, comes back to work, goes to the hospital again. And now they're making, allocations specifically based on him. Nobody else asked for this.
Right.
And he's the guy that's getting the free pass that now everybody's going to take advantage of.
Right. Yeah. I mean, are they going to be showing up in their pajamas? I mean, can you imagine? I mean, they basically can now. And, I'm sure, part of me wonders if somebody's going to do that just to make a point, just to
Somebody
say like,
will.
really, I hope somebody does. I hope somebody shows
will.
up and in their feety pajamas and says, "What? You said we can wear whatever we want, so no dress code, so we can show up in our pajamas if we want." It's crazy. It's just crazy to me.
And so he took a shot back. I guess Marjorie Taylor Greene took a shot at him about the
Mhm.
dress code on X, not Twitter. Used to
Yeah,
be Twitter.
right.
Now X. She took a
Twitter
shot at
X.
him about the dress code, and then he took a shot back on about the fact that she showed, naked pictures of Hunter Biden that were pulled directly from his laptop.
Right.
Clearly, and she said before she showed him, "Hey, parental advisory. If you're watching this on C-SPAN or whatever, there's some things that are going to be shown that you don't need to show your kids, right?" And it was evidentiary, right? She was trying to show this is
Yes.
the kind of stuff that's out there. Now, was it a little over the top? Okay, fine, yeah, but there's some theater involved with that. This is day-to-day business. This is
Right.
you're altering day-to-day business based on one guy. One
Right. Yeah,
it's
you mean to tell me when you roll out of bed, you can't find a pair of pants? Just a simple, basic pair of pants. I mean, I'm not even asking the guy to put on a suit, but just maybe don't look like you just, got back from, like you said, from the gym or something. I mean, have a little decorum, have a little respect, have a little dignity, and I'll tell you what, we go to church every Sunday, and I am a fan of dressing. I don't dress up. I'm not dressed, to the nines, but we look nice. We look like we're going somewhere special that is special and important, and that we care, that we just simply care about how we look. And we are in that societal mindset now of, well, we could do whatever we want. We can look however we want, dress however we want. Doesn't matter, who cares. And I'll be honest with you, I care. I care. I think, and I'll tell you what, my poor grandmother, God bless her and rest her soul. And she's turning in her grave when she sees all this now. That woman, maybe she was a little extra, but my grandmother, she would wear her heels and full makeup to go down to the mailbox to get the mail. You know what I mean? Like, and that's that they were old school. If you went out anywhere, anytime, you always looked, you know, presentable at the very least. I mean, you don't have to look like you just came out of, I don't know. I can't even think of this how
It's
little I shop,
not
but
asking for Fashion Week.
right.
We're not asking for that. You find me another, governmental body, assembly of any kind, anywhere, in anything outside of a third world nation that doesn't dress appropriately. Let's just
Mhm.
call it appropriately, professionally, whatever you want to call it, but appropriate to the position that they're in. And I know to
Yes.
some people, maybe they don't care, or some people probably think, like you said, it's a little bit extra to be dressed in a suit or whatever. I would tell you that the expectation of the American public is that our representatives, your representatives, their representatives, is that they're putting on their best professional face. And so the next question is, what goes out the window next? The
Mm.
dress code's gone, right? So he's going to be walking around in, his hoodie and his basketball shorts, and like you said, somebody else is going to test it. In my mind, it's going to be somebody like, and maybe she's probably in a little bit more trouble right now, but Bobert, right? Like, she'll be the one who'll walk in a pair of footy pajamas or something, just to
Yes.
make the point. But then because there's a language code also in
Right.
chamber, right? So you can't, if and I'm fairly confident there's a fine system that goes into play too, right? You
Mhm.
drop an F-bomb in there while they're in session, those kinds of things, and it can be heard and it's public. Like, there's a warning system, and then there's fining, and then there's if you're late, right? You remember the whole, you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
carry a gun in there, so they put up the metal detectors, and if you're late, you're
Yep.
going to get fined. So there's punishments
Right.
that go with the decorum of the chambers. So what's the next thing that goes out the window? Is it,
Mhm.
since the dress is gone, so now is it we're going to be able to say whatever we want in there? Does it matter?
Right.
Is it, and it's just the next step in the degradation of the classiness or lack of class in our government, and it's shameful. It's
Yeah.
embarrassing.
It is. That, I mean, that's the word right there. The nutshell word. It is embarrassing. And and as well as I do that there's going to be people that are going to sit and watch this or having their own commentary about this topic, and they're going to be like, oh, what's the big deal? The big deal is exactly what you said, Clay. What's next? It's just the beginning. It's like the door getting, creaked open, and they're going to keep pushing it open wider and wider and wider. And, there's plenty of examples of that, in recent history, throughout history. Every time you give an inch, they want to take a mile, and then
Sure.
another mile, and then another one. And it's just that decline, that gross decline of all civility and decency and appropriateness that is just disappearing right before our eyes, and being erased, among other things. Yet another thing of a civilized society that is being erased. And mark my words. I have a girlfriend who always says, we always get nervous when she says mark my words, because every time she says it, it means it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And but I'm telling you, mark my words. This is the beginning of a yet another series of decline in our society. When it comes from the top, it's coming right from the top.
Less and less people, fewer and fewer people have the courage to enforce a standard. And
Mhm.
that's really what it boils down to. Nobody wants to be argumentative if they don't have to. Nobody wants to be, we're breeding ourselves out of being confrontational because it makes people uncomfortable, right? And honestly, because he is who he is, and truthfully, his, however long he's been sitting in his seat has not been all that stellar. The guy has barely been to work. That, people are, oh, well, we'll make this, exception for him, which is now turned into an exception for everybody. But it's
Right.
because nobody wants to look at him and go, man, I hate the fact that you had a stroke. I hate the fact that you have anxiety. And I know that when you came out of Pennsylvania, you were in a hoodie and shorts, but here we wear suits and ties. Sorry, that's the
Right.
standard, and you got to do it. Nobody wants to do that. No, nobody wants to be the bad guy. So the easiest thing to do is just not, and you just
Right.
let it happen, because people they don't have that intestinal fortitude to enforce it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because it is, otherwise it's impossible to wrap your brain around. Like, so one person can't have the sense or the decency to dress appropriately for the setting. So we'll just bend everything for this one person, and they made
Yep.
I read an article, they're making a big thing about the fact, well, the poor guy, he had to stand outside the door to be able to give his vote and everything. Well,
His
it's a very
choice.
simple solution. Dress right.
His choice.
Yeah.
The rules are the rules. Sorry.
Mm,
You want to stand
right.
outside the chamber and yell, and you don't want to be seen on C-SPAN? Put your suit on, man. Put on a tie like everybody else.
Everybody else,
Yeah.
oh, that guy, man. I mean, if you want to sum up everything that's wrong, he's probably one of the many great poster childs for
He's
everything
pretty
that's wrong,
pretty high
right?
on the list. Yeah,
Oh,
pretty high on
yeah.
the list.
I
But
mean,
that's, moving on, right? Moving on to the next topic
yeah.
is, this is, so the next thing we're talking about is my hometown. I'm a
Mhm.
Chicago kid, born and raised, right?
Wow.
At least on the, the greater Chicago metropolitan area. The city of Chicago, or good portions of it, the lower income, rougher parts of the city, the west side and south side, are becoming what they call food deserts,
Mhm.
right? The grocery stores are leaving, closing their doors. Walmart leaving, closing their doors.
Mhm.
And it's because of the high crime.
Right.
Walmart has lost $10 million per store over the last few years because of theft. No business is going to stay there because of that.
Right.
So what the city's, solution to this is, government owned, government run grocery stores in these neighborhoods. So Chicago, and I have visions of, communist Soviet Union bread lines, like a government run grocery store, and nothing run by the government runs well. I mean, we know this.
Yes.
But now they're going to try and run a business, right? And this is the same city that has just gone SAFE Act, right? So there's no bail, cashless bail now. So all criminals, they can walk into now a city-owned grocery store, steal from it, get arrested, and then the cops release them right away. So they're being, they're committing a crime against the same people that are going to release them back into the wild. It's craziness.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that this is one step closer to socialism and then into communism. Now that you have government run grocery stores acting as the norm.
Right. Yeah, it gives me chills, honestly, a little bit. And the funny thing was, that you first of all that you made the Russian the bread line reference, because it was the first thing that came to my mind when I started pulling up this information and this research. As soon as you threw it out there as a topic, that was the image that came to my mind. And it's so funny that you said that. And I think one of the articles I was reading, made a similar type of reference to that, that image and that reality. It's not even just an image; it's a reality, because it's probably what it will look like. Get in line, get your number. You can shop on certain days if you're, I mean, it's crazy. And and I have this video here. It's a short video, just to take a look at it's not just Chicago. I think it might be just 3 different locations. One of them is Chicago, but take a look. Just the mass looting. They're not allowed. The security, you see the security guy in that last one, it's a security guy with his camera just recording it, and that's all that they can do. And places like Chicago, and there'll be others soon to follow. I would pretty much guarantee that their idea of a solution is to not fix the problem, not stop the crime, not enforce any kind of laws or anything along those. Their idea is to, we'll just have city-owned grocery stores. Don't worry about it. You don't need a Whole Foods. You don't need those kind of options. We'll take care of everything. And wasn't it Reagan who said something about the government? What is the something about 7 words?
Frightening words. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Right.
Yeah. I mean, and here we are. And then there's, but the problem will always be the same problem. There's always going to be people that stand there with their hands out and go, okay, thank you, more, please. And don't understand what's happening to them and don't care. They don't care. So I don't even know what you do with that. I mean, how do you fight against that when the very people that are the ones being affected by it don't care? They're like, whatever, doesn't matter to me. I mean, you just let it go and say whatever. But then the bleed out from it, it will extend and extend and extend, and that's scary.
Another image of this, right? The turn of the century, shortly after the coal mines, right? And a lot of people don't even know this part, or fewer people know this part of American history, but the mining towns, especially in the Appalachians, right? The coal mine towns, you've heard the term, the company store, right? There were towns that literally the mine was owned by a company, right? All the houses were owned for all the workers. All the workers lived in houses that were owned by the mining company. The store was owned by the mining company. And in a lot of cases, the people were paid in script that was printed by the mining company that was only good at their store. And, so this is what this is turning into. So you've got people living in government housing. You've got those same people on government subsistence, run around with an EBT card, and now they're going to be shopping at the company store because it's the only thing available to them. Oh, by the way, throw in the Obama cell phone program. But they're becoming more and more dependent upon the government itself for every facet of life. Free internet, oh, by the way, in Chicago, right? Everything that they do, every piece of their life is becoming dependent upon the government. What does that do? That keeps them there. It keeps them in that location. They are voting where they want them to vote, right? This is keeping a Democratic blue stronghold in one place.
Yes.
City of Chicago, right? Hasn't been a Republican mayor there in over 100 years. No matter how bad things get, still blue. And it always will be because they keep that voting population in one place. Dominates the city, dominates the state, overrules the entire state of Illinois, city of Chicago. And this is how they control it. This is how the people are being controlled. Make them dependent upon the government for every facet of their life. And this is the next step. This is where they're going.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. There's no question about it. It's happening right in front of our eyes. And again, more than in just Chicago, any of these major cities, it's copy and paste, right? It's just copy and paste in all of them. Same thing. My husband told me a story a while back. Never forgot it, about a coworker of his. And as you know, my husband's in law enforcement, and this coworker of his worked his beat years ago, was in the city, and he got very involved, community involved, and he was working with some activists in the area who were there supposedly to help the poverty stricken, help lift them and elevate them and do the right things. Supposedly, and they were making great progress. There was a lot of turnaround happening. Things were getting done, buildings were getting renovated, and lots of great things were happening. And the activists whose job was to do these things, said to my husband's coworker, we gotta stop. Got to stop fixing things, got to stop making it better. And he was baffled. He's, what? We're making great progress. We're doing great things here. Look what's happening. We're getting these people out of these situations. And so he's, that's exactly the problem. If we do that, if we do our job too well, we're out of a job. And that is a 100% true story. So the people that are in these cities claiming to be for these people and helping them, it is a lie. And it's devastating to know that these people have no idea. They have no idea that they are just pawns in a dirty, disgusting game.
I can remember as a kid, I shouldn't say kid, I was probably in my late teens, but WGN Chicago, right? Everybody used to watch the Cubs, WGN on cable, but watching WGN News, and there was an interview, South Side, I think it was Robert Taylor homes, which were right across from old Sox Park where the White Sox played, and there was a grandmother, mother, daughter, actually all three of them were mothers, so there was actually 4 generations. The youngest was holding a baby. They all lived in Robert Taylor homes. They all grew up in Robert Taylor homes. They all spent their entire life from the time that the place opened up. The oldest generation had been living there. Her children were born there. They lived there. Her children were born there. They lived there. And now a 4th generation was being born and being raised there. It's now, granted, and everybody from Chicago will tell you, Robert Taylor homes are gone. Government housing is not, right? The situation hasn't changed. It's just a different facility. But that's what it is. It's about keeping people in one place so that they can manage and manipulate them how they need to. And in most cases, it's about voting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you could take that in every direction, so they've got the poor, manipulated and held down and dependent. That is the key word. They're completely dependent. And that's great, but there's still too many people on the other side of things. So that's not good. So let's just, let's just let lots of migrants through and let them vote. They'll vote for us because we'll just give them everything too. And, they're doing it. they're doing it and it's working because here we are, you know.
The unintended consequences, truthfully, and I'm starting to hear this from friends I know in Chicago. I keep referencing it, but that's kind of where we're at, is that there is a backlash from the African American population in Chicago who are saying, all you people that we put in office who made all these promises to us to take care of us, to improve our lives, you're pushing us to the side and you're prioritizing all these illegal immigrants that are being, bust in. You're taking care of them in spite of us, taking money away from all the projects and the things you said you're going to do for us. And now you're pushing it towards these migrants that are coming, being bussed up from the border. So there is a backlash that's coming and is happening and growing a little bit in some of these bigger cities from the poor, the manipulated, those folks who've been, kind of controlled, because now they're not getting anything. They're getting, or they should say they're getting less, because now you've got a new population that we're targeting to control. And that happens to be this migrant population that's being bussed up from the border.
Right. Yeah. And I think Lori Lightfoot inadvertently started that one, Beetlejuice, right?
Yeah.
Um,
She's gone. Not that things have improved, but she is
no,
gone.
no, no.
Yeah.
What's his name? Brandon Johnson, right? That's
Yeah.
who we've got now. But she was I think she started raising some eyebrows finally towards the end there when she was keeping a really pretty great police security detail for herself and her partner and protecting her home and her life, essentially. Well, not essentially, literally. And leaving these impoverished areas, these poor areas, that the crime, because of the whole defund the police nonsense, were left unprotected, and these people were getting victimized and by violent crime. We're not just talking about petty theft, we're talking about murder. The murder rate went up, homicide rate went up, astronomically. And they're like, well, where's, we know how many cops are around the job. Where are they? Oh, they're protecting you. Oh, okay. That doesn't feel right. So I think she accidentally started some awareness there, but not enough, clearly not enough.
It's in this we're this whole topic is really kind of indicative of a lot of things that are going on right now, or at least I think things that are coming more to light. The shadows are kind of moving away. I think people are starting to see more. You touched on it with the Lori Lightfoot thing, and people are starting to act. They're starting to change their minds. They're starting to, we've got the, go woke, go broke, right? We're starting to see some more backlash when it comes to things like that. But, moving on to this kind of third topic we're talking about, this is where it's starting to really impact things. Is for the second year in a row, the military is not meeting recruiting goals. It's 2 years in a row.
And I talk about scary.
It is scary. So for those that don't know, last year was an interesting year because the military, two of the services for sure, did not meet recruiting goals. And really what happens in the recruiting world, I didn't work in the recruiting world when I was in the Army, but I understand how all of this works because we had to worry about retention, right? The active forces, you have to worry about keeping people in because that also affects your numbers, right? It's not just new bodies coming in, but it's keeping bodies in, right? So we had to worry about retention. Everybody had a target that we were supposed to retain in numbers. And what you would do, especially, so the fiscal year in the military goes from 1 October to 30 September. It's not January to December. It's October to September. So in and around July, you would start looking at your numbers for the year and you would say, oh, well, we've already hit this, or we're at 97%. We'll get a couple more. And then after we hit 100, we'll hold guys, their re-enlistment. And in this case, for the recruiters, it's their enlistment. We'll hold them until the 1st of October. We know we've got them. They're already committed. They've already said they're good, but we'll hold their paperwork until the 1st of October, and then they'll count towards next year, right? So the Marine Corps I think it was the Marine Corps and the Navy last year, they had to dip into that forward year to make their goal. Army and Air Force both missed completely. Even digging into that, kind of pool they had, they still missed. Navy and I think it was Navy and Marine Corps. I know it was Marine Corps for sure, but I think it was Navy and Marine Corps. They dipped into that pool, brought everybody back into fiscal year 22, and they made their goal. But they didn't have that pool already into fiscal year 23, so they started behind the curve. Army, all four services started behind the curve. They didn't have that bench built of folks waiting to get in. So they started the year behind and they never caught up. And now the entire service, I'm confident it's across all four services right now, are not going to meet recruiting goals for fiscal year 2023. It's not happening. They're not making it.
So talk to me about cause, you think, or because I would only be putting out guesses. So talk to me about cause, and then let's talk about consequence. What do you think the cause of this steep decline is?
So I think that probably, if I could list three, and one of them is minor, but it's somewhat significant. The first one I think is there is a lack of, and I say this in the urban areas, truthfully, right? Middle America, the South, truthfully, those places, the Great Plains, all the quote unquote flyover states. And then in the South, you're always going to get those red states, and you're going to have people who feel that duty, honor, country, patriotism. They're going to sign up regardless. The bluer states, and especially in the urban areas, there is very, very little loyalty, and in my opinion, declining loyalty to the country, to serve the country, right? And that I think plays a huge part in it. I think secondarily, I think you're getting a lot more disqualified candidates. Okay. And here's one of the bigger things that people don't think about. The federal government still says that marijuana is illegal. No, I don't care what your state says. I don't care if you have a prescription. The federal government says no. If you're a marijuana user, you cannot join the military until you are clean. You have to pass the urinalysis to get into the military. Okay. And oh, by the way, you can't use again once you're in the military, and you have to know that going in. So the recreational legalized drug use in many states, because it's growing everywhere, all across the country, I think that is a disqualifier, along with a lack of general physical fitness. The military has gone to fitness camps. I hate saying that because it just sounds horrible, but it's like a fat camp, like kids who want to join the military, who can't do it right now because they're just in such poor physical condition. They will send them to a camp to get them into shape to meet the bare minimum standard to come into the military. And then once they come in, then they still have to continue to improve to meet the continued standard for service in the military. So I think the general physical fitness of America is down. And I think so that also, you eliminate a lot of potential candidates right off the bat with that one. And then the last one, and I said this is smaller, but I think it's significant, is the military for a very, very long time has been, especially since it's became an all volunteer force, but the military has habitually been a family business, right? Both of my grandfathers served in World War II. My dad is a Vietnam era veteran, spent 4 years in the Air Force during the Vietnam War. I served. Right now, I have a son who is approaching service age. There's no expectation of me towards him for him to serve. I don't. The Army that I joined way back in 1992 is not the Army of today. I don't push it on him. I don't. If he wants to, that's fine. That's entirely up to him. But there was expectations for a lot of families, and I know a lot of them. I served with a lot of them. Multi-generational. Hey, spoken or unspoken, you're going in the military, right? You're going to serve. You're going to follow in your dad's footsteps. You're going to do what your grandfather did. Those kinds of things. The veteran influence, encouraging young men and women to continue to serve the next generation, I think that is also on the decline. So if you don't have those of us who spent 20 plus years fighting, right? The generation, the war generation, the global war on terror generation, if you don't have us encouraging the next generation to serve, you have lost one of your biggest recruiting tools that you have that you're not even paying for. The military doesn't, they don't pay us to say anything.
Right.
They pay us to encourage kids. But if we're not encouraging them to serve, that's one less tool in the kit bag.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm gonna take a wild guess that the recruitment videos and advertisements and promotional material that you read and watched back in the day is a little bit different than what I'm about to show. And I hate to do this to you because it's probably going to be like a knife in the heart, but this is one that I just recently pulled up.
This is the story of a soldier who operates your nation's Patriot missile defense systems. It begins in California, with a little girl raised by two moms. Although I had a fairly typical childhood, took ballet, played violin, I also marched for equality. I like to think I've been defending freedom from an early age. I began feeling like I'd been handed so much in life, a sorority girl stereotype. Sure, I'd spent my life around inspiring women, but what had I really achieved on my own? I needed my own adventures, my own challenge. And after meeting with an Army recruiter, I found it. A way to prove my inner strength.
Yeah, so that's a current recruitment video, a relatively current recruitment video for the U.S. Army. Now, I just want to, before we discuss it, I want to compare it to this Russian recruitment video.
То, что было вчера, не имеет значения. То, кем ты был прежде, уже никого не волнует. Теперь важно то, кем ты будешь сегодня. Что ты знаешь о себе? На что ты способен? Вопросы могут остаться без ответов, но разве ты сможешь потом спокойно спать? Узнать себя, познать границы своих возможностей. К черту границы. Ты готов ломать себя до изнеможения. Каждый день здесь боль закаляет. Шрамы, повседневность. Это ты решил себе что-то доказать. Командир здесь только для того, чтобы ты мог увидеть в нем врага. Потому что без врага нет боя, а без боя нет победы. Но на самом деле, главный враг — это ты. Вчерашний ты. Твоя задача — выследить врага, догнать его, превзойти, стать лучше, чем он, и вернуться назад победителем.
So a little bit different vibe.
Yeah, you don't even have to speak Russian to catch the vibe of that whole thing. And
Yeah.
Listen, the Army recruiting has been floundering for a while because they just keep perpetually missing the mark. From Army of One through now, they actually have brought back Be All You Can Be. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but they have literally resurrected, I kid you not, they've resurrected Be All You Can Be from when I was a kid, right? Yeah. I remember those, right?
Yeah, I remember those very well.
Sure, right? They have brought that back because everything between Be All You Can Be and now has been a mess. Army of One, right? What you just, the things like you just showed, it has not worked. We relied upon the war and global war on terrorism and all of those things to bring soldiers in. We made some decisions along the way. I can remember during the surge, 2007-ish, right? Mm-hmm. We weren't missing recruiting goals or retention goals, but we were below. They increased the authorization for the Army. We were allowed to have more soldiers than what we had in the past. So we had to up our game a little bit. And really what they ended up doing was lowering standards. This is, and I'm not making this up. This is a real thing. We let in more GED holders, right? There's a cap that the military keeps. We let more in. We allowed more criminals, more felons. We allocated or allowed more waivers for things like facial and neck tattoos. Previous like I said, criminality was allowed. There was waivers for that, depending on the severity of what it was. We lowered our standards to fill the gaps. Well, the war's over, right? We've
Right.
that whole mess in Afghanistan, the exfil out of there. So now we've got nothing to draw on. Like we don't even have the war. We don't have the, go defend your country, go kill terrorists, we don't have that.
Sure.
That's not even a tool. We don't even have that available to us. So those in the recruiting command who are trying to figure this out, they're aiming at small populations. That's what you saw in that video that you showed, right? The cartoon. They're aiming at a very specific, very small population.
Yeah.
And they're spending a lot of money to do it. And the reality is that how many, specifically kids who grew up in a house like that with two moms on the West Coast, like that speaks to a very small population.
Right.
Do they need to be recruited? Sure. Do they need to be targeted that specifically? And is the bang for the buck there? I would argue no. It's a miss. That's a miss.
Yeah.
And they're throwing darts, and they're throwing darts in the dark right now is what it seems like. I mean, if we're reaching back to 1978 to be all you can be, to pull that forward because we can't think of anything better,
right?
We have a serious, serious problem. And a lot of it resides in the folks that are making decisions in the recruiting and advertising world to fill those gaps. It's just not working.
Yeah, and that is nothing against anyone in alternative family lifestyles or whatever. Yeah, whatever the new terminology for everything and anything is that whatever. Nothing really nothing at all against them. They certainly can serve and serve well and do all those things. But, for me personally, when I think of the military, I think of badassery. I think of toughness and ruggedness. And I don't necessarily mean just men, although that is first what comes to my mind. I'm not going to lie. I won't win any feminist awards saying the things that I say, but I'm okay with that. But yeah, I think toughness, ruggedness, just physical, mental strength. And, that sounds like an ad for somebody who's going to go work in a nice little office somewhere, not serve your country. And I don't know. That's just me.
It's there's been a lot of consideration about who to target for recruiting. And I know that especially now that we've got Space Force and Cyber Command and all these other things where, especially when it comes to the cyber world, right? Do you need somebody who can run, 2 miles in 12 minutes? Do you need somebody who can bench press 300 pounds? Do you need somebody who can do all those things? You don't need a super soldier for that. You need somebody who's really friggin' smart, right?
Yeah.
And who knows and understands computers. But that does not, excuse or eliminate the need for an individual to have self-discipline, to be physically fit, to be capable of fighting, right? We learned in this last war, there's no such thing as a rear echelon, right? The whole women are never on the front lines went right out the friggin' window in 2002, 2003, because there was no line, right? Women had been excluded from combat roles forever, literally up until that point. We're now in the middle of it, right? Lynch, right? She got captured. Why? She was in a convoy, right? That just happened to be driving through, and they got ambushed, and Jessica Lynch, and she ended up getting, captured in Iraq, right? There was no more front line. So it's got nothing to do with, or it has less to do with the job that the military needs you to do, but your responsibility as a soldier to be capable of fighting. Can we find people who are really friggin' smart and can do computer stuff and, oh, by the way, pass the basic and minimum physical fitness? Sure we can. We just got to figure out, what is that key? How do we recruit equally across the board that is effective for the money that's being spent, right? And the military analyzes this all the time. There is no more U.S. Army NASCAR. There is no more U.S. Air Force NASCAR. You know why? Because the people who watch NASCAR, you don't have to recruit them into the military. They're already
gotcha.
coming,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
They're already
Yeah, that
coming.
makes sense.
it's wasted money. You know,
Right.
you're not getting anything more out of that population. The
Mhm.
question is, how are we targeting the folks in, the metro urban areas, right? How are we targeting the kids who truthfully come from more affluent families, right?
Right.
We're not. And that's the problem, is that we're trying to figure out, we're throwing darts in the dark about trying to find, who do we target, which population, and does everybody need to be recruited individually, and all these other things. And oh,
Mm.
by the way, the clock's still ticking. The recruitment and retention is still a requirement, and it's not going away. So
Right.
we've got to figure this out, and they got to figure it out quick, because we can't do 3 more years or 3
Right.
years. A third year, you asked about consequences of this,
Yeah.
right? Now you've got more strain on the active force, right, to
Mhm.
continue to fulfill all the missions and requirements as deemed by the president and Congress, right? Has to be
Right.
done. And if they can't do it, then where does it come from? Reserves and National Guard, right? And they just spent
Yeah.
20 years giving more than they actually bargained for, more than they agreed to in many cases during the global war on terror. They had a stipulation as an organization. You deploy, you're home for so
Mhm.
many years, you won't deploy again for so many years. And that was kind of hard and fast. A lot of that stuff went out the window. And now, if you've got an active force who can't fulfill their roles and responsibilities, that goes back to the reservists. Reserve and National Guard are going to have to start filling those roles just like they did during the global war on terror. And now we've got another strain, right? Because now
Right.
you've got people who have civilian jobs, 9 to 5. Now they're going to be gone again, right? That they hadn't
Right.
bargained for. So it's as this rolls downhill, it just gets worse. We can't afford in an all volunteer force to miss the mark for 3 years in a row. We just can't. I don't want to talk about a draft. That's the scariest possibility there is.
Yeah,
But
I literally was just about to ask you about that.
yeah,
I mean, if they can't, I get the whole casting a wide net. I think that's a great idea, but everything else that you've said about it is, wow. I mean, they better start thinking really, really fast of how to get the right, or people with the right qualifications, or at least greatest potential to have all the right qualifications, because that would be the next step, I would imagine, right?
uh, it's frighteningly that it almost has to go back on the table.
Yeah.
But now they're going to have to broach a topic that it comes up every couple of years, and everybody in Congress freaks out about it, and then
Mhm.
it goes back out the window again. And that is signing up for selective service. Right now, it is still male only.
Mhm.
Women are not on the list for the draft. Still not a
Right.
thing.
Still not.
So,
Yeah.
but now that we have a fully integrated military, every job in the military is open to male and female. There's special operations, all of it, right? So the argument for women not to be drafted is, has been off the table, but every time everybody freaks out whenever it comes up. So if they
Right.
start talking about reinstituting a draft, which is a frightening thought, then they have to have the argument of including women into that process.
Yeah, they have to stop shying away from it. I mean, a decision has to be made. And
Yeah.
I honestly, I guess I'm no help, because I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. I mean, there's a huge part of me that says, well, fair is fair. We want same. I hate to call it equal. I know they call it equal everything. These, the feminists, and I already think I'm equal. So let me rephrase it. I already know I'm equal, but I'm different. And
Right.
so that's the big, obviously that's the big conversation. I personally don't think I need to do the same things that you do in order to be equal to you, but there's obviously that faction of society that feels that, if you can, be on the front lines, then I can too. But I don't know if they ever really take it to that extent, do they? They always kind of stop when it comes down to the scary stuff.
Well,
They want
they opened it up as I was retiring. It was becoming more and more prevalent. There were women in the infantry, which is what I did for a living, and for the vast majority of my career, it was all boys club. There were no women
Mhm.
allowed. And then near the tail end of my career, they allowed women in the infantry. They started allowing them into the special operations community in larger roles. They had been in there for a little while in smaller scale for very specific reasons. But they opened up every occupation in the military to females. They removed that barrier completely. So why not remove it when it comes to a draft? Why not?
Yeah. Why not?
There's no reason not to, but it has
Right.
come up in Congress a couple of times and everybody freaks out and then they leave things as is and they just move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to get us to a point where we're in dire straits, and there is no time left to debate. So action has to be taken, and it
Yep.
sounds like we're right on the verge of that being the case, and it's scary. I mean, you're talking about national security. You're talking
Yep.
about I mean, that's it right there. You're talking about your national security, the strength of your country, and its ability to defend and protect and do what needs to be done. And we're to be at a deficit. That's scary. That's scary. Yeah, I'd love to bright side it. Can you bright side it? I can't bright side that. There's nothing.
I mean, if you really want to go like rainbows and unicorns, I'm sure there's a grand portion of our, or at least a decent portion of our country that will happily say, oh, well, then defense spending will have to go down. And then we'll take that money and we'll use it for education, and we'll use it for, feeding the homeless and finding them housing and all this other stuff, which we won't. We'll waste it on other crap. We'll send it to Ukraine, or we'll
I
send it
was
to some
just
other
gonna say,
country,
yeah, you know where
right?
that's going.
We'll spend it on somebody else's defense and not our own. But, in the decline of our military, which is what we're on the cusp of, right?
Yeah.
Step one is not funding it correctly, and step two is not manning it correctly. So we're getting there, right? We're getting to a very dangerous level where that's a reality. But no, there's no rainbow in this. That nothing good comes out of this, period.
Right. Absolutely. All right. We gotta leave them with something bright and cheery, or amusing or entertaining. Should we leave them with something amusing and entertaining, or just leave them feeling dismal and dark?
This is on you. This one's totally on you.
All right. So listen, so Clay brought the big topics, the good topics, and I'm going to take on the role of bringing you the fluff. I'm going to give you such a stupid piece of fluff. Are you ready for it? Here it is. You read that down there? This is our fluff. We are going to talk about Marin Morris, and we're only going to give her a few seconds. We'll give her 2 minutes. We're going to give her 2 minutes. So if you don't know, Marin Morris is a country, to me, pseudo country music star. She's I think Grammy Award winner. I'm not going to lie. She got a couple of tunes I found catchy, entertaining. I don't know if they really, in my opinion, are really very country. But I would say I will give her the credit and say that she is talented. Here she is. That is the permanent look on her face. She's a very pretty girl, but she always has that "I just ate something bad" expression on her face. And I don't, but this is kind of indicative of her entire personality. She got into a big feud. I'll share this with you with these two. If anybody knows this story, I'm preaching to the choir. But if you don't know, this is Jason Aldean and his wife, Brittany Aldean, more country music stars. And so they had this big feud. So the gossip, I always pretend like I don't know any of these things that they're doing, but I do. So Jason Aldean's wife posted something about being happy to be a girl, or happy that a couple months ago, few months ago, about, loving that her parents did not let her or turn her into a boy when she went through a tomboy phase. Well, Marin Morris kind of lost her shit about that and was founded very offensive and, non-inclusive and all of the buzzwords, very mad. So they've had this country music feud going on. And the result of all this apparently is that Marin Morris has decided to leave country music. She's done with it. She doesn't want any part of it. She's gone. And to that, I'm hoping you're all going to say this with me out loud in your head, whatever the case is. But I'm pretty sure we all have a collective, who cares? Yeah. Bye. Yeah. So guys, that is your fluff piece. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that Marin Morris is leaving country music. Are you going to be okay? I'm going to take a moment of reflection. I'm just kidding. I'm not. I don't really care. Clay, how much do you care about that? Are you like a little verklempt about it?
First of all, I don't listen to country music. Second of all, I have no idea who she is, but it is very indicative of the entire celebrity, society of their self-importance, right? How many people
Yeah.
do we see? Oh, if Trump gets elected, I'm leaving. I'm going to Canada. They're all still here. None
They're
of them left.
every single one of them.
I'm doing this. I can't stand Sean Penn, truthfully. I can't, but I give the guy a lot of credit. That
Sure.
guy has stood on his morals. He has kept up his beliefs adamantly, loudly through all of this. Now, he's done some dumb stuff along the way, but that guy is stuck to his guns. That guy I'll give credit to. I don't like him, but I give him a lot of credit. The rest of them, it's all fluff. It's all garbage, and all they do is talk. And this young lady, who I've never seen before, I thought when you flipped that up there, I was like, is she a Kardashian? Because that's what she looks like.
She totally looks like a Kardashian. You're so right.
I don't know who she is, and I really don't care. Not even a little bit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, all of the topics that we talked about tonight, people are not going to say a single word. I'm just kidding. I know they're going to say things, but they're going to not say anything, but they're going to comment about the Marin Morris thing and say either, I don't know who she is either, or they're going to say, I know who she is and I don't care. Good riddance, goodbye, whatever the case. But, the general message I hope that she gets is no one cares. Live your life. Same thing when Taylor Swift made her big departure from country music to go be a pop star. I don't think this girl's going to have the same success. I just a prediction here. I could be wrong, but yeah. So guys, there was your piece of fluff in all of our serious talk, a bit of who the heck cares. But here's what we want from you. We want to hear what you think on these topics. We want to hear your input. It's okay if you disagree with us. We will allow it, right, Clay? We'll allow him to disagree.
For it, right? That's what it's all about.
I mean, what is there to disagree about, though? I mean, we're just right.
Listen, adult grown-up discussion, right? That's what we're looking for. You're going to disagree with me all day. Happens to me all the time. Anybody who follows me, follows my blogs, or watches me on social media, people disagree with me all the time. It's okay. I don't care. That's the way things are supposed to happen. So if you want to express your opinion, please do so in the comments.
Yes, we love it. We love it. We think it's fun. So please do. And you never know, if you want to engage in a topic, or if you have topic ideas for us, we'd love to hear about it. And maybe we'll put it up on the screen and do all kinds of fun stuff. But we'd love to hear from you. And we thank you for joining us for another episode. We look forward to bringing you more and more and more. We should have some interviews coming up for you pretty soon, and more great topics. So thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Hey, the book's out there, Amazon. Keep moving, keep shooting. Guarantee you'll love it. Yes, you will. I know you will. So make sure you go get it. Take care, guys.